ingest a lot of alcohol before bed, it's almost like forcing you to sleep, much like a sleep medicine would. It's like pseudo sleep. You're not really asleep, but you pass out drunk.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You're in this state of like unconsciousness maybe, but like as far as like getting into wavelengths of sleep, it's disturbed. What's up, bro?
Living full fueled, baby.
How those ankles doing today?
Dude, they're skinny. They're skinny today. I took them off.
I got mine out a little bit too.
Dude, looking good. You got some stealthy legs on you. You went heavy on leg day, obviously, yesterday. You told me that.
I did do leg day yesterday.
Yeah. How was it?
Felt good, man. Like I had this freaking knee injury for a month that I'd just been lingering.
Yeah.
It was like one day I just played too much basketball and I felt it kind of coming and I was like, just play one more game. I'll just play one more game. I played like 3 more games, dude. The next day, like my patella tendon was burning.
Done.
So it's just like a little tendonitis that I've been kind of like trying to nurse back. But yeah, this is the first time I've gone like heavy. Like I've been doing like light leg days and more like movement stuff. But I was like, let's go for it. And it felt good. Felt kind of
my man.
Back to it. Yeah.
My man.
It's fun.
Well, we're dialing in sleep again.
I slept great after that.
Slept great.
And that's because I crushed the workout in the morning and my body had all that movement and all that positive cortisol and everything spiked in the morning. That way, when it came to sleep time, man, I was ready to hit it.
Bro, let's dial into that a little bit more. I
awesome.
love talking about cortisol levels because I think, what percentage do you think of Americans are operating with inflated cortisol levels?
Man, I think 50% is low. I think it's got to be like 70%, 75%. That's just like me based on the people I see in my office. Most people are running around in this like fight or flight, frantic, like, oh, I got to get the kids, then I got to get back to work, and then I got to go find something to eat for dinner, and then when am I going to squeeze a workout in? And I freaking hate my life. It's just like everyone's living like next minute, you know? And it's like, that's rough, man. That burns you out.
Dude, there was one guy. So like as an entrepreneur, I lived like that, man. It was just like freaking just all the time. Just what can I pile more into a day?
Yeah.
And I think it's been maybe over the past 2 years, and partially due to my wife and then getting into masterminds too, it's like sometimes doing less is doing more to an extent. Like, what's the point of piling it? And this is where it became a crucible. And I felt like I was sleeping better, right? Is that I looked at some people and yeah, dude, I was casting, like I cast judgment, right? I realized that like I want my kids to excel in athletics 100%. Like I think athletes, like in particular,
there's a lot of
just have a more confidence later on, like these things, right?
A lot of positives, yeah.
I also think that my life's important, right? And my athletic endeavors in now are important, right? Like I think the purpose of living fully fueled is part of like maintaining that athlete in you for as long as possible.
That's cool.
So at my kids at 7 years old, man, like, yeah, they could turn into a Tiger Woods, right? I get them in earlier. I friggin' dial them in. They could turn into something that friggin' prodigies, right? But the reality is if it's going to be at the expense of like the way I kind of, and that might cynical thinking, but like, dude, I want to sleep good at night.
Yeah.
And I'm not trying to run them to 15 softball practices, golf, gymnastics, and all these things for it to impact like my sleep because I'm trying to pack more in a day and I'm trying to be an entrepreneur.
Right. And what's the impact on them? Do they even enjoy it? You know, it's like
that's right.
You see these kids that are doing 20 different activities, man, and they're like, I don't even like sports, Mom. It's like,
you playing with your dangling?
No, I was just fixing my underwear.
Oh, okay.
Jeez. but it's like, is the kid actually even into that, man? And what's the downstream effect? Then they don't want to do anything.
Yeah.
You know? So yeah, they got to enjoy it. That's
I mean, Enzo has something written all over him though. That dude was ready to.
Dude, he's gonna
friggin' go ham and
he's gonna
be a prodigy
for sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
Dude, I'll have to show you this video. They probably weren't even 2. I took this video. I was like chasing them around the house. They could walk, but they were very like stumbly. Bro, he made a cut, like a freaking like lateral move around this chair. He looked like a professional athlete. Like the way his legs and hips bent, I was like, what the fuck? he dodged the chair and like run around. I was like, all right, like I gotta figure out what's going on here.
Man,
it was a proud moment.
Oh, shoot.
That's fun.
But I mean, so at the end of the day, it's like, what's that game you play, and then where it impacts your health, right? Because I'm looking at some of these parents, I'm like, dude, man, that ain't friggin' modeling to your kids. You're
Mhm.
friggin', 60 pounds overweight, and then
Yeah,
you're running them
that's
to friggin' all these athletic events. I'm like, I'd rather model something to them so that they know, like, they are, number one, going to be a good steward with their body.
right.
They can have adequate sleep. They can, they can be a productive member of society post athletic, living in a post athletic world.
Right.
Because regardless whether you're gonna do it for a living or not, you're still gonna have to
Yeah.
gear up towards that. But going into, all right, now what does that look like for you? Like, how do you prepare your body for sleep? And I think, we have some things right here that I think we're gonna hit. Stress, anxiety. All right, what's the mitigation
Yeah.
of that? How do you lower that? Because the more stress, the more anxiety, the higher your cortisol levels are.
Yeah. And man, that's, with like my functional medicine practice and the stuff that I help people with, that's a big one, man. Like
Yeah.
people come in with digestive issues, they come in with skin issues, like these eczema, inflammation, and you're trying to get to the root cause of it, man. And it's like, okay, maybe it's something in your diet. Okay, maybe it's a genetic factor. Dude, most of the time, like 90% of the time, there's so much stress on that person's system that their body's then going to present with some kind of thing because it's burning out.
Yeah.
Right. And it leads into like leaky gut, like we've talked about in the past. And,
Mm-hmm.
I'd say, so there's this great functional medicine doctor, Dr. Cabral. And I'll drop that name because I think he's one of the best doing it when it comes to like root cause, like medicine.
Mm-hmm.
And so he has this protocol. It's a de-stress protocol. And it's just that, man. It's like focusing on these areas of life, these different things that will get your body out of a stress state. Right, because there's all kind of stress on the body. Physical, right?
Yep.
You're slouching all day. That's a physical stress.
Yep.
Biochemical stress. That's what we're
Matter
putting
of
into our
fact.
body. That's messing with the cellular system. There's the psychological stress of your life, right? So like all these different things. But what happens is when your body is stressed in a fight or flight state, everyone likes to use the example of you're in the African safari and a freaking lion's chasing you.
Mm-hmm.
At that point, you want fight or flight, right? You don't want to die.
Of
so
course,
your body's
yeah.
preservation kicks in. Blood flow goes from the digestive tract out to the muscles, right? So your body's not going to prioritize digesting food. It's going to prioritize muscle and movement.
Dude, how cool is
dilate
that?
your eyes. Yeah, so our
Just
bodies are
imagine
fantastic machines, bro.
Mm-hmm.
But we're not in the safari and we're not getting chased by lions, right?
Yep.
We're just living our life.
Mm-hmm.
But when you're stressed that your boss is going to get on you about something, when you're stressed about your family and your kids,
That's
your body
lion.
doesn't know
It's
the
chasing
difference.
you.
So it will go in. Yeah, that's your lion.
Yeah.
So your body will go into that state, man. And when that's on all the time, that's not how it's meant to be. It will, it has a capacity it can burn at, you know what I mean? And then you burn out is the term, right? That's when your adrenal system can no longer produce enough adrenaline. Cortisol can't keep up, and then you tank.
Yeah.
And then one day that's when people end up in my office. They're like, man, I don't know what to do.
I'm done. I'm depleted.
Right.
Another thing is caffeine and stimulants. So your body's already in a stress filled with anxiety, right? I get there. But then it's an understanding of like, what is now your level of comfort? What is your system associated? Is it incorporating more caffeine or coffee? Because that just is going to increase that load, whether you realize it or not, right?
Yeah.
So like that's
it might
usually
buy you some time, but it's not.
Yeah.
It's not a fix.
It's like, oh, I need it. Like, and then other stimulants that you're incorporating in.
Right,
Adderall is a big thing that people incorporate in, but those are not something that long term. We're talking about longevity here.
Yeah.
That is getting towards the root cause.
Yeah.
That is sustainable for longevity and then optimal sleep. Because the reality is if you utilize stimulants, right? Caffeine later in the day is going to keep you up. It's going to impact your circadian rhythm.
That's right.
And then stimulants being like Adderall or any other stimulant taken throughout the day.
Yeah.
That is directly impacted to your circadian rhythm. So like your body, like this is also another really cool thing of what I love about the body is your body has a cadence that runs through the day. So during the day, you have your ultradian rhythm, which your ultradian rhythm actually is 90-minute stints. So what I love about the ultradian rhythm is that your body operates within wave cycles and you need to give your body a rest or a a decompressed, where it's in a decompressed state.
Yeah.
And it could be shutting the eyes of just, or meditating for every 90 minutes for like 5 minutes, just giving it or doing some level of breath work to decompress. So like your ultradian rhythms, though, you are best optimized when you're focused for those 90-minute segments, right? But then as your body goes into your sleeping state, that then becomes your circadian rhythm, so your sleeping state, which is impacted through different also waves as well. There's a rhythm to that, and you were talking about like how your delta waves run through the body, where you're going into different stages. Your body going to its lowest temperature, or to its highest temperature to its lowest, right? Or is it the other way around? It's to the lowest, then highest, because REM, you're in your hottest point of sleep.
You're warmer, yeah.
So like when you're in stages 1, 2, and 3, you're actually going down to then go up. So it's going to be,
it fluctuates.
So it fluctuates throughout the night. But that's what I love about really understanding your body's cadence, and then when you need to be incorporating potentially a stimulant, because stimulants in the morning, you want to, if you can spike your cortisol levels or spike them gradually with exercise, and then coffee. Coffee's a good thing, right? It becomes a bad thing when you're drinking coffee at 7, 8 o'clock at night,
right? And
impacting your circadian rhythm.
Yeah, and I think the most important thing about that you were kind of leading up to is the most important thing is that your sleep that night, or let's just say tonight, if we're talking about today, is determined by how you start your morning. It is, you're 100% setting the stage for your sleep tonight by how you operate this morning, right? If you're starting off the morning flying out of bed because your alarm went off and you're 20 minutes late and you're highly stressed, you're going to spike cortisol so high, quick. It's going to set your circadian rhythm to be all over the place.
Yeah.
You want cortisol to be higher in the morning, but it needs to be a nice slow rise, right?
Slow rise.
You wake up, you slowly can get out of bed, right? So like when you're always like running late, man, or like last minute doing stuff, it's too much.
And you feel it freaking right in the back.
That's right. Everyone knows that's not like fun. It doesn't feel good to jump out of bed and have to get going. If you can have a nice slow rise, you can get up, maybe get some water first, then get some coffee going if you need, and like that sets you up for a good night's sleep that night. So it starts in the morning, bro. And that's what people need to know is like you can do all this pre-bed routine ritual, melatonin, like chamomile tea, whatever you want, dude. Like if your morning was crap and you were in this fight or flight morning, like you're gonna have a rough night's sleep that night.
Absolutely. I mean, anytime I'm in a super stressful situation, which it's never in the morning, because I'm that morning guy, right? I'm that 4:45 a.m. I'm getting up, man. I'm like, I love mornings. I love life in the mornings because like no one's getting up before me.
It's quiet.
Like it is quiet.
Yeah.
It is.
It's a good time.
I'm the first person out of bed. Like I want to control the day. So like, that's why I get up in the mornings, because at the end of the day, like I remember, I mean, it's not like it doesn't happen throughout the day, but like my cortisol levels, literally, I can feel them rise, right? Like I can feel my waking state. Cause even when you actually get up, doesn't mean you're in your fully waking state, right? Your body's not ready for its ultradian rhythm yet. Yeah. So like you're not it takes like 1 or 2 hours as you get up to get into your waking state. That's what I love about like sleep, and then just getting into, hey, I'm alive. I'm a human right now.
Right.
But it being gradual, where you can control that by the mornings, just being a real quiet. But the other thing is like, I don't also want to go right after coffee. Like one of the things that I prime my brain. And so I pray a prayer of gratitude, which naturally is going to secrete serotonin release.
Good hormone.
So like just good hormone balance. So praying, and then I'll usually then get out and go stretch. So stretch my body, allow it to limber up a little bit. Maybe do a few push-ups, not like overwhelm it with push-ups. Yeah. And then obviously I'm going into a workout right after that. Nice. I do get into the cold plunge tub, which is obviously not the most ideal situation, because you are literally spiking your cortisol levels like through the roof into a fight or flight state. So that I probably wouldn't recommend for everybody.
But you're an advanced user, so make that known that like you've been doing it for a while. You have all these other things you're doing that are going to help you to like mitigate that spike in adrenaline when you do it.
Yeah.
Right. Like someone who's never done that before, it just hops in and that's like their morning. They're probably gonna have a rough time with it, you know.
Yeah.
Like you know how to do it properly for your body, for your lifestyle, right? You've got it kind of down, so that's important to kind of understand.
I think there's certain things that I do, and honestly though, I'll be honestly something that I'm looking at right now, because I tend to get, there's a gap on the later end of the day, and I'm trying to like fine tune that a little bit more.
Yeah.
But there's a gap between like a 3 to 5 o'clock window where I'm like, I feel like I could be a little bit more dial in or just a little bit more focused in whatever I'm doing, you know, within my blockout time frame. And I would say over the course of this year, I've cold plunged in the like very early in the morning, and I'm thinking about shifting that a little bit later, more. So like I'm also still trying to dial it in, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because I don't think it's maybe the most beneficial thing for even me.
Right in the morning, yeah.
It like right in the morning. So I would even say like, you know, I'm a work in progress. Right?
Yeah.
I don't know if that's the, you know,
Finding
right thing
what
to
works
do.
for you, yeah. Like maybe later in the afternoon, not necessarily before bed, but maybe like maybe when the day's at its hottest and you've just worked out or something, or
Well, I work out in the morning. That's why I do it
every morning.
Yeah, so I work out.
Not much differentiation there.
So like, because I wanted to do it, which I have liked. Honestly, dude, it's been pretty dope. When I can get my central nervous system really low before I go into a workout. I don't know why, man. Well, it's obviously because your body's like frigid cold. But when you start running, like, so we're doing some kettlebell swings or whatever, and then we run, man, I'm like, I have a bounce, bro. In me. So it's been cool, but I also don't know how that affects my hormonal levels and then ultimately my sleep. Because to tell you the truth, man, I measured my sleep. I think it's been about a year and a half, 2 years. Since I like truly measured it, like, you know, where I was dialing it in. So I should go back to that.
Yeah, and it's
I
good.
should dial that in.
I think the measuring is good when you're changing stuff, right? Like if you're changing different like hacks, like the cold, and you're gonna move it to different times of the day.
Yeah.
I'm at a point where I'm pretty consistent that like I don't measure my sleep, and I'll just be honest about that. I don't count like calories and stuff because I know what works for my body. I'm pretty in tune.
Yeah.
I know when I had a crappy night's sleep, right? Like if I was stressed that day, or if I had something the next day that was keeping me up, and I feel it and I know it.
Yeah.
But like for the most part, I've got my sleep like routine pretty dialed in that I sleep good every night.
Yeah.
And I'm not worried about tracking it because I don't see an issue right now, right?
Yeah.
If I start experiencing, I'm like, damn, like what's going on? I don't know. Then I would start tracking it, you know?
Yeah, exactly. I think that's a big thing.
Tracking's great for new people trying to like figure this out, right? They're like, damn, like how do I even know if I'm getting deep sleep? How do I know?
Right.
Like you should invest in like a wearable that you can get some readout, right?
Yeah.
And obviously one night's not going to do anything for you. You should have a few nights of data, at least probably a month at least of some data, you know, when like life's consistent, it's not holidays, it's not random stuff all the time, where you can make sure you're getting like objective data to your sleep on a normal schedule.
Yeah.
I think. Yeah,
that's good. I think we recommended a few things. So I used Whoop, but Aura, like one of my clients, he really likes his Aura ring. And I think that has less impact. So when something's around your wrist versus like on your finger,
right.
I think it's probably better, to be honest, and to not impact sleep.
A lot of people already have a ring on, right? So it's something,
So I think, you know, if I had to recommend something, I think Oura Ring. My buddy actually owns this really cool app company called Macros First, where it's in macro counting, and you're able to adjust it based on like if there's something that you need to incorporate in. So like if you drink alcohol, you can actually convert that to a macro, which is pretty cool.
Yeah.
Because those things are what people miss out on, right? Oh, well, I drank a coffee. Like, oh, you need to convert that to a macro, right? So understanding where your caloric intake comes into play, and then what time of day, like it's super easy, the app, to measure these things. That's because cool. That ultimately is going to impact your sleep. That's again. Right. Yeah. And so if it can be a ringer, like a reminder of like, hey, when you need to eat, and like, hey, do I need to eat? Like, you know, I need to stop eating 2 hours before because I need to go in my fasted state. And if I'm doing time restricted eating, like that's something I've seen massive benefit in time restricted eating, but I allow my body, again, something we talked about last episode, to be in a little bit more fasted, dehydrated state going into sleep, because I know I'm going to get better sleep.
Yeah, that's good.
Can we talk about alcohol and how that impacts sleep?
Yeah.
I know that you were like adrenal fatigue and all these other things that you wanted to tap into, but I know alcohol is a major thing that impacts sleep.
Yeah, I mean, when you ingest a lot of alcohol before bed, it's almost like forcing you into sleep, much like a sleep medicine would, right? Like
Yeah.
a Unisom or something. It's like overriding your normal biological system, and it's like pseudo sleep. You're not really asleep when you pass out drunk. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? You're in this state of like unconsciousness maybe, but like as far as like getting into wavelengths of sleep, it's disturbed
Yeah.
it's disrupted, I should say, by that alcohol, like the way that it's a toxin really, so like your body's trying to metabolize that, it's trying to process it, it's trying to get it out of there, and it's gonna people are like, oh, I freaking passed out, but you weren't like sleeping like you should be sleeping, if that
Yeah.
makes sense.
Yeah, Peter Attia talks a lot about this, and I think he has like some episodes. Andrew Huberman was also talking about it, how drinking really, really impairs sleep. Like you
Yeah.
do not get you think you do,
Yeah.
because for a while I was thinking about, oh, like if I have a glass of wine,
A
I could,
nightcap,
yeah,
it's like such a common thing, like,
but and then I didn't realize what it was doing to my brain. Number one, so I've significantly backed off of drinking,
yeah,
like any type of wine. I wasn't a big drinker before,
yeah,
but like now I'm not. Like, I mean, I probably have had like 4 or 5 glasses of wine this entire year.
nice.
So, like that's one major thing that I wanted to eliminate, because I'm like, dude, sleep's got to be protective.
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
honestly, it's kind of an intense take on alcohol, but I think I agree with it in a way. I'm not saying this is how I live, because I go to family events and I'll have a drink or two, but
I mean, well, you're Italian,
yeah, it's you can't not.
Yeah, what are the lemon
The limoncello.
limoncello.
But like realistically, man, like alcohol is nothing other than toxin. It's poison, right?
Yeah.
So like anyone who says, well, they said that a glass of wine a night is actually beneficial for you, it's like the antioxidants and resveratrol that's in grapes, dude, you're not getting that much from a freaking glass of wine. That is not overridden by the toxic effects of the alcohol. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's like, let's just be honest. I'm not saying I don't drink. I'm not saying you shouldn't drink. I'm just saying, let's just state a fact of what alcohol is. It's a neurotoxic poison that we put into our body that has depressive effects on our central nervous system that causes us to feel better, good, or drunk, whatever, right? But it has almost 0 to negative value for your health, right?
Yeah, that's huge.
So most people aren't going to love that answer, but that's just like that's knowing what you're doing. Again, like we talked about with avoiding injury, right? It's like, know what you're getting into. You're putting something in your body that, hey, you're going to sacrifice like some health for feeling cool one night, and whatever. But it severely disrupts your sleep when you're doing it on a regular basis. So,
for sure.
Yeah.
So then that leads us into, alcohol. That's a choice. You can take it or leave it. I think doing it more than probably 2 times a week is going to be aggressive. And then it shouldn't be like definitely an every weekend occurrence. I've been one to do that, man. I love wine. I absolutely love wine, but it's just something that I wanted to mitigate, because again, my mind goes to longevity, right? Become the most optimal performer in whatever I'm doing. But then something I want to tap into now, as we'll finish up on, is just physical activity. And then when you do physical activity and how that may or may not impose on sleep.
Yeah.
So like, what are your thoughts on that in terms of when you do physical activity and how it can benefit sleep, or how it can be a deterrent?
Yeah. And there's different sleep types. Maybe we'll do this. We'll save this for next episode. We'll talk about the different types, like they have like animal names: the wolf, the bear, the shit.
I'm a bear.
Are you?
I don't know, but it sounds cool.
You look like a bear, Papa Bear. But these different sleep types are different. It's kind of like a blend of like personality type, physical type, like all this that is like, oh, you benefit from less sleep or more sleep, or you need 7-8 hours. Again, these are like kind of like averages, right? Like everybody's different. Every biological person is different. But remind me the question again. We're talking about
physical exertion, right? Yeah. Physical activity.
So most people are going to have better sleep when they do some type of physical activity early in the day, right? Like in that first few hours of the day, getting movement is going to just get your body into it's going to normalize your circadian rhythm, right? It's going to get the proper hormones secreting in the morning. Cortisol is at its highest. So you're going to basically like be using that so that your body will know as the day goes on to taper down, right? Cortisol should be on this curve that goes up by about 10 a.m., 9 a.m. actually should be kind of like peaking. And then as you get into later in the day, it should be sloping down. Probably at its lowest around like bedtime, which is, 9 a.m. is a great bedtime, or 9 p.m. I'm sorry, is a great bedtime. Most people are not doing that. Most people are stretching that out. So then as you stretch that later into the night, you're like, your body's like, well, shit, I shouldn't go to bed yet. I shouldn't go to bed yet. Maybe I need a little more cortisol. And it's going to maybe drop a little bit more into your system to keep you up. And that's when you're like, well, I was tired, but now I'm not tired. And it's midnight, right? Yeah. So your body was like, well, you missed the window. There is like a window for ideal sleep. So yeah, most people are going to benefit from physical activity earlier in the day. Some people get away with like midday exercise is good. I don't usually recommend like going to work out like at 8 p.m. or 9 p.m. like before you're going to go to bed, because now you're doing a lot of stimulatory activity, and it's probably not going to be the most beneficial for sleeping. Some people can. They say they can. I'd like to see what their sleep metrics and data looks like. Yeah. Maybe they're sleeping, but they're not getting great sleep, Yeah.
So. Yeah, especially if you're taking a scoop of pre-workout or something as a stimulant before. Yeah. You definitely are getting great sleep. Yeah. If you can keep you, honestly past 3 to 4 p.m., if you keep your heart rate pretty steady, that really keeps a consistent circadian rhythm going into sleep, where you'll have quality sleep. I think your chemicals all balance out, and then you're prepping your body for sleep. So I think that, sleep is a major way to live fulfilled. I think it's honestly, if it's really the most important, right? It's the most important metric to longevity and quality of life, and to really truly live fulfilled, in terms of how you think, how you process, how you perform on a daily basis. Sleep is imperative. So
awesome.
That's what we got for sleep.
Sweet, man. Sleep full fueled.
Live beyond limits, baby.